Hello everyone, and welcome to video 5 in my series on how to play chess. This video is all about how to notate chess. In other words, how to write moves down so you can record the games and use them for later. So here I'm on chess.com's live analysis board, and for this board you notice that the ranks are numbered. The horizontal rows of the chessboard are ranks and they're numbered 1 through 8, and the vertical columns of the chessboard are lettered with lowercase letters for the files. What this means is that every square corresponds to a letter and a number. So for example, this is C5, this is E4, this is H6, this is H3, this is A1. Now each piece on the chessboard has a capital letter associated with it. Rooks are R, bishops are B, queens are Q, kings are K, and the knight, since the king already has K, we use N for the knight. So let's make our first move on the chessboard. Knight F3. And as you notice, as I make the moves here on this board, they will appear up here in this upper left corner. The number corresponds to the number of moves since the start of the game, or from a diagrammed position. Now let's have black make his first move. Okay, so for pawns actually do not have a letter associated with them. In fact, instead of writing any letter, you just write the square that the pawn goes to. In this case, C5, as we notice here. And now let's do the same for white. So notice that each number has two moves, one move for white and one move for black. That means each move corresponds to a move from white and a move from black. And if you're talking about a single move, those are half moves or ply. Okay, so continuing on with the game, black plays D6, and white plays his bishop out to B5. And this is check, because black's king is in danger. We use a special symbol for check, in this case a plus sign. Now black defends with his bishop, bishop D7, and now we're going to make our first capture of the game. Bishop takes D7. For captures you use an X, so just like for regular moves, all you have to do is insert an X between the capital letter and the square the piece is moving to indicate a capture. And notice this is also check. So black's going to capture this bishop back, and now we have knight takes D7. Okay, the game continues D4. Now it's interesting how pawns capture. Since pawns don't have a letter associated with them, we write the file that the pawn came from, in this case the C file, and we use the file that the pawn is going to, which is the D file. So to make this capture, we would write C takes D4, still indicated with an X. The pawn on C captures D4. Okay, now knight takes D4, knight F6. Once I made this move knight F6, we added an extra letter. The reason being, there is more than one knight that can come here. So we have to be able to differentiate between which knight went there. Was it the knight from D, or was it the knight from G that went there? In this case, it's the knight from G. So here we write knight G F6. This happens whenever two pieces, usually knights and rooks, can go to the same square. So in this case, these two knights are able to go to F6, so we have to differentiate between those two. If the knights happen to be on the same file, let's say the knight were on D5 and we're going to F6, we would write knight on 5 to F6, and for this knight we would write knight on 7 to F6. So instead of writing a G, you would write a 5 or a 7, if it were the case that the two knights were in the same file. Okay, now let's move on with the game. Knight C3, G3, bishop G5, bishop G7, queen D2, and now for castling. If you haven't yet watched my video on castling, please feel free to check it out. Castling is a move that we write very differently from the others, but it is a series of capital O's and dashes. So when we castle kingside, we use two O's, because that's how many squares that this rook travels. This rook travels 2 squares, so we do O-O, 2 O's with a dash in the middle. Now let's say white castles on the queen side. In this case we use O-O-O. We add a third O with a dash in between because this rook from A1 moved 3 spaces instead of 2. And that's how we indicate queenside castling. And that is most of what you need to know to notate chess. In this game we have made 10 moves, and it's black to make his 10th move. And there are other things that you can notate that will come in a later video. Alright, thanks for watching the video, and I will see you next time.